gems and trade block plays. Win today and plan for days. Waiver gems and trade block plays. Win today and plan for days. Waiver gems and trade block plays. Win today and plan for days.
Win your league, stack that bread, or start a boom and lose instead. Sunday Surefire, let's go.
Sunday Surefire. It's your host tonight, Aaron Downtown Brown. I got the commish with me.
What's up, Aaron? How we doing?
Commish, how are you doing, man? And the other co-host, Ethan Weaver.
Aaron, how we doing?
We're back. We finished our fantasy football season. We're in the playoffs. I guess before we even get into it, how hyped are you guys over the New England Patriots being in the AFC Championship game yet again?
We're back, baby. We're back. No, it's been awesome. I've been at Gillette the last two playoff games, so it's been wild. The energy is back. It was electric in the wild card and divisional round. So just hoping Drake May and the Patriots can take care of business against the Broncos and head to the Super Bowl. So jacked up.
Yeah, it's been a long 5 years since we've had anything of substance to root for here in New England, which for Ethan and I, as Patriots fans in our mid-30s, is like a massive drought. So I know the rest of the world was feeling really bad about us for not getting back to relevance anytime soon. So I think they were looking forward to us being down a little bit longer, but it's always more fun when we're the enemy, and we're kind of shaping up that way to be that way again, at least this week, where we're playing a Denver team that's undermanned with Bo Nix being out. But it's good to be back in the mix. I didn't think it was going to happen this fast. I kind of like their under on their season win total, which is like 8.5 or something back in September, and I couldn't be happier to have been wrong about that. So rooting for the Pats this weekend. Hopefully we get back to another Super Bowl. The 11th or 11th one in the 11th one in the franchise's history. So that's hopefully on the horizon for us coming up in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I hear you. I was telling Ethan before the show that I guess Chiefs can pass the torch if they. If I had to pick a team, it's nice to give it to the Patriots because they have. It's either been the Chiefs or Patriots. The last 12 or 13 years in the AFC Championship game. So that's pretty crazy to think about, for sure. But we'll kind of get started here. We're gonna talk Dynasty risers and fallers. So every year, once the season completes, we kind of prepare with our ADP list and our dynasty players we're targeting, trade targets and whatnot. But now that the 2025 season is in the books, we're going to talk about who rose on our list and who fell. So we'll go ahead and start it off with our risers. And Kamish, why don't you kick it off with Drake May, your New England favorite there?
Yeah, I'd love to. I like we kind of just started talking about. We could do an entire segment on the Patriots turnaround this season. We'll spare the Dynasty audience that conversation, but we'll get into risers, and he's definitely a riser at the position. As I run down my list here, I'm going to be referencing some ADP data points along the way. Just know, folks, what I'm referencing there is Dynasty League Football or DLF's ADP for these players in one QB formats. Obviously, for the QBs, there'll be a little bit of an adjustment too. Just keep that in mind. But overall, this is one QB data you're hearing. The first data point is where they were at in August, so leading right up into the season. And the second data point is where they are as of January, so as of just a couple of weeks ago in startup ADP. So Drake May, we'll get right into him. In one QB, he was ADP 89. He's jumped all the way up to ADP 56 in one QB scoring formats, and he's going a lot higher than that in Superflex formats, if you can imagine. Coming off a year where he finished either QB2 or QB3, depending on your settings. In standard kind of 4-point per passing touchdown scoring, he was QB2 overall. And he did it with Hunter Henry as his primary secondary option. Henry was second on the team behind Diggs in both receptions and yards. Drake May, just 23 years old. He gives us a rushing floor. And it just kind of feels like he's scratching the surface of his true potential, obviously being in the MVP mix in his first full-time season as a starter. So just you can call this a homer pick if you want to, but he's my QB1 overall in Dynasty just based on his age, just kind of slightly edging out Josh Allen. And I just couldn't be happy. If I had shares of Drake May, I'm ecstatic. I couldn't be happier as a Patriots fan watching Drake May. And he's definitely a big riser at the position in, as far as Dynasty goes.
Yeah, I love the call out Drake May. I think huge riser. I think following him throughout the season, it was great to see him on the top of the QB points per game. So great season for him. Ethan, why don't you, any comments on your beloved Patriots leader there, and then take us away with Christian Watson next.
Of course, I have comments on the baby GOAT. Obviously, Tom Brady being the GOAT, but Drake May.
Let's just do an hour on this. This is great.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to ask the commish if he had Drake May as his QB1 over a guy like Josh Allen. I probably have. I would rank Drake May as my QB1 as well. As the commish said, it could be slightly a homer pick, but I mean, I don't know how you could argue too much with the age and what he was able to do through the air and on the ground with the group of receivers that he has. I mean, he took a group of receivers that everybody was complaining about going into the season with Kayshon Boutte, Pop Douglas, Matt Collins, Stephon Diggs, tight end Hunter Henry, and I mean, Drake May absolutely just torched the league and is an MVP candidate in his second year. So I just couldn't be happier as a Patriot fan. I'm ecstatic as a Drake May manager. I was able to trade back in my Dynasty startup last year in 25. I traded back from the middle of the first round to the middle of the second round, and I was able to acquire some additional draft picks, and I selected Drake May in the middle of the second, which is an absolute steal compared to his ADP now in Dynasty startup. So yeah, I couldn't be happier about Drake May's performance in 2025. That brings me to Christian Watson, who is one of my risers. And essentially, Christian Watson, I mean, just going back to my startup last year, I got him in the middle of the 18th round in June of last year. People kind of left him for dead, obviously coming off the ACL injury. But the reason why I have him here as a riser is because he was essentially kind of left for dead. People kind of thought maybe the best days of Christian Watson were behind him. He just never really panned out to that potential. And then he kind of came in this year after the ACL and just kind of took off as Jordan Love's number one target. I mean, he only played in 10 games, but he finished with 611 yards and 6 touchdowns. He was kind of Love's go-to guy in terms of the red zone targets and those deep shots. But I mean, he's going to be turning 27 in May, so he still has a few good years left in him. And I just think it's great when you have a guy in your roster that was kind of left for dead. People wouldn't really give you much for him, and now he's a valuable asset that you can put in your starting lineup. So I think Christian Watson took a big step after the ACL injury not too long ago.
It's an awesome call. Yeah, it's an awesome call, Aaron. I'll step in and talk about it. I love the call. He was a guy I kind of just had hanging out on a few of my Dynasty rosters because I couldn't move him because no one wanted him. And sometimes in those positions, you're just better off holding the guy rather than taking whatever, a 4th round pick or a late 3rd round pick, whatever the case may be. He's a player I actually wrote up in an article that I wrote on Dynasty League Football back in November. The title of the article was 7 players to buy entering 2026. So this is taking place during the season, but already looking forward a year. And Watson made that list for me. I started the article with, I'm reading verbatim now, the sentence. It says, as the Office's Michael Scott once said, no question about it, I am ready to get hurt again.
Yeah.
Because as you know, if you've rostered Christian Watson in Dynasty for the duration of his career like I have, it's been a roller coaster. There's been moments where he entered the league, he was doing nothing. Middle of that year, he has that 4 or 5 week stretch with Rodgers where he spikes. And then the injuries start piling up. Just when his ADP goes up, it comes down, something happens. And so coming off this injury, he really was priced at an all-time low. I just pulled the data on him. He was number 216 overall in ADP this time, or in September. And you fast forward to now, he's number 77. So he has taken a massive step in 1 QB formats. And he's the receiver to own in Green Bay. Matthew Golden showed a little bit in that playoff game for the most part. Had a quiet rookie year. Romeo Dobbs is a free agent. I don't think much of Dontavian Wicks. Jaden Reed's going to kind of be in the mix, but he plays a different role than Christian Watson does. So I think this is a great call on Watson. Definitely a big winner this year. And I just hope the guy can stay healthy, man, so we can hopefully keep cranking out some productive fantasy weeks for us. And even if he's a little bit boom or bust, which is kind of the archetype of player that he is, I'm just happy to see him succeed, and I hope he can stay on the field.
Yeah, I love the call too. I think I had him on a league I'm rebuilding in, and it was great to see him just come from the grave and just start producing again, right? So I was able to kind of flip him. I think if you have him, it's great. As you said, he's got a great future if he can stay healthy. But it's great to see him get targets from Love right away. I'll jump on this next guy. I don't have to say a whole lot about him. And with JSN, with the season he had, I think, I think with JSN being an obvious riser, being the top wide receiver this year, I think, it's more just to concentrate on, do you have players that you need to be patient for? JSN, I think, is just like the perfect example where he's that talent coming out of college. He just kind of needed, he had a coaching change. He had, a little bit of personnel changes on his team and whatnot. But it took him a little while to bloom, but sure did he in 2025. So I just think if you have certain players that that they can they've shown potential, and I know in 2024 he had kind of was showing that towards the end of the season. Hey, let's hold, similar to your Christian Watson take. Just he was too valuable where probably the price you got him, either where you drafted him at originally, but he certainly pays off, and now he's a guy where you probably don't want to trade him. He's probably on that no trade list as like the Jamar Chases of the world and players like that. So JSN, obvious choice there as a riser, but just a great example of sometimes you just got to be patient in Dynasty.
Yeah, no, I think this was a very good year to learn about patience in players. You saw a lot of players this year have like 30-year breakouts, and guys like JSN, who was pretty good in 2024 and then just absolutely took off in 2025. And I mean, he's another guy that if you have on your team, you're just ecstatic. I mean, we were all excited to draft JSN rookie drafts. He wasn't necessarily the player we thought he could be right off the rip. But as you said, with the personnel changes, new coaching, he just absolutely took off with Sam Darnold. I mean, it looks like Geno Smith was probably the problem. He was absolutely awful in Oakland this year. Or not Oakland, Vegas here. But it's now it's a conversation. I mean, for some people, who is the wide receiver one in Dynasty? Is it JSN? Is it Jamar Chase? Is it Puka? I still love Jamar Chase, but I mean, I wouldn't blame anybody putting JSN at 1 or 2. I mean, that's just the kind of year he had.
No, I don't have a ton to add. I mean, the only question you need to ask is the one Ethan kind of got to there at the very end is how high do you have? I mean, for me personally, I do have a set of rankings up on DLF at dynastyleaguefootball.com. I have him currently ranked as WR2 overall, only behind only Jamar Chase. And I was the first guy to put him in my top 3. Because for a long time, for a couple of years now, it's been Chase, Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb. And then the next tier of guys comes in. And, I think he's elevated above both Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb, as well as Puka Nacua. I have him ahead of those guys now, too, just based on their situation. So it's Chase number 1, JSN number 2. And as Chase gets a little bit older, the next couple of years, if JSN keeps the pace, then the conversation shifts to, well, when does age start to play a factor? When when Chase gets to be 28, 29, we'll have that conversation. But for now, I have him as WR2 overall. So definitely a riser.
Yeah, I like that. I like that combo. I think sometimes it just depends, how well the quarterback play is. I think Darnold, having 2 straight years of 14-win seasons, showing he's can be, he's a starter in the league. He seems to be the future of Seattle too. So I think that's a big key point with JSN as well, to get a secured quarterback as well. But hey, talking about patience, Kamish, why don't you talk about number 4 on our list with Javonte? Did you need to have a little bit of patience with his career?
You definitely did. I think this is kind of almost Christian Watson-esque territory, where if you had him, you were stuck with him because you couldn't trade him for anything of substance for a while. I think we kind of know the story with Javonte. He was a second-round pick in Denver back in 2021. he was splitting time with Melvin Gordon in his first year, and then into his second year, things were starting to look up for him. He was a borderline first round pick in 1 QB startup drafts going into 2022, and then he has the catastrophic knee injury, tears his ACL, his LCL, his PCL, every CL in his knee was gone. So, and when that happens, is sometimes when you get that, like, it takes a guy more than a year to come back. Like, yeah, sure, he got back on the field in 2023, but he wasn't nearly himself. Hell, his recovery took like a full 2 seasons worth to get back to where he was. So that's why he was kind of left for dead. I mean, you go back to August, he was 104 in ADP, and then now today he's jumped all the way up to 51 after a successful season. And if you really want to zoom out further, his ADP this time a year ago was 180. Like, this guy was left for dead in every sense of the phrase. So, but this year he ended up being an absolute bargain. I mean, he had just under 1,400 scrimmage yards. He averaged 4.8 yards per carry, 13 total touchdowns, good for RB11 finish. He was RB12 in points per game. And he is a pending free agent coming into this season, or this offseason. So we'll see where he ends up. But Stephen Jones, who's effectively running a lot of things in Dallas, came out and said a week or two ago that retaining him is their top priority this offseason. We'll see what happens. They have some other guys they got to take care of down in Dallas as well this offseason. They could probably use some help on defense. That's kind of an understatement, but they do want to keep him around, it sounds like. But even if he doesn't stay in Dallas, honestly, he did enough this season to show that the injuries are behind him. And as we see all the time, these running backs, they get paid. We as dynasty managers say, don't pay running backs because they break down and get old. But whatever, the NFL doesn't listen to guys. So we need to adjust to that. And I think right now he's ranked a little bit too low for my liking here. Actually, it might be a little bit of a buy low still, just because he doesn't have that contract yet. But that thing is coming after his 2025 performance. And I'm willing to rank him like he already has 2 years of security, like a lot of other running backs do. They're kind of in his same archetype in terms of age and production. So I'm all in on Javonte Williams. And if you can get him at a little bit of a discount, I'm still willing to do it for my teams that are contending in 2026.
Yeah, you answered the question as to your own question as to why he's still a little undervalued, and that's because he doesn't have the security in the contract. Obviously, if he re-signs in Dallas, that's a massive rise to his dynasty value to get the starting running back in Dallas locked in for 2 years. So I think that's a massive piece to fall into place for Javonte Williams. But as you said, he's probably going to get a job elsewhere. But I mean, Dallas is the place we want to see him land for his value, because it is a pretty good free agent running back class. But talk about a guy that was, like you said, left for dead, and now is a high-end RB2 week in and week out, RB1 back into RB1 week in and week out on your roster. So definitely a guy that you're just pumped up if he was sitting at the back end of your roster at the end of the 2024 season.
Yeah, I love the dialogue. I kind of posed a question there to the right. Who's your sell high? I think, as you guys mentioned, with unknowing the contracts, where he's going to land, he's more of a firm like hold right now. But if he lands in a juicy situation again, or a high powered offense, Dallas was a great spot for him, landing spot. So if he lands somewhere else, you could definitely sell him pretty high if you'd like. Or as we know, we saw so much power from him. Want to still see a little bit more burst at times, but got a lot of power. So he's still going to get those goal line touches and touchdowns in 2026. So I like that. But Ethan, how about we move on down the list and talk to me about Michael Wilson?
Yeah, honestly, Javonte Williams and Michael Wilson are similar in the fact that they kind of came out of nowhere this year. Obviously, Javonte Williams, he did have a clearer path to relevancy, being the projected starter in Dallas, where Michael Wilson was projected third, fourth option in Arizona. But I think both these guys, if you want them on your dynasty rosters, are probably buy now before the hype continues, especially before Javonte Williams signs that extension, that contract in Dallas. Now's the time to buy him, because once he signs that contract, his price is going to go way up. And I think Michael Wilson's is a similar situation where I think people still think he is fool's gold, and he very well may be fool's gold. I mean, you still have Marvin Harrison Jr. there. You still have Trey McBride there. So is he the second option behind McBride, or is he the third option behind Marvin Harrison Jr.? But talk about a guy that just came onto the scene this year. Wide receiver 13 and half PPR, wide receiver 10 in full PPR. I mean, who would have thought Michael Wilson was going to be a WR1 this year? Won some people some money. Just a great third-year breakout for him. I mean, since week 11, he had 5 top 10 finishes, 3 in the top 5, 78 catches, 1,006 yards and 7 touchdowns. And I mean, I think we got to ask ourselves the question, is he the wide receiver 1 ahead of Marvin Harrison Jr. on this team? I know Arizona is still going to give Marvin Harrison Jr. every opportunity to take that role just because of the capital, but Gannon's gone. They don't really have a quarterback right now, so it's a little dicey situation in Arizona. But I just think he's another guy that was literally just sitting there on your bench, not getting any playing time in your starting lineup, and then all of a sudden you had a guy this year that you could plug into your lineup week in and week out and help you win games in 2025. So what a year for Michael Wilson.
Yeah, let me put you on the spot real quick, Kamish. Is he a sell high, or are you holding him to help you win weeks next year in 2026?
I'm most likely holding him right now if I have shares of him. I guess it's the start of the offseason, so my first thought goes to, if I'm selling him, what is he going to get me in picks? And no one's going to give you an early first for Michael Wilson. And in this upcoming draft class, there's going to be some guys that we like, no doubt, in the mid to late first round. But I'm not, at this point, at this moment, you're probably not going to get a first round pick for him. And so what am I going to do? Take a second round pick? Like, no, probably not going to do that. So I'm holding on right now to Michael Wilson because of what he showed you, how he went from a roster clogger to a must start. I want to take that seriously from what he did over the second half of the season. He did that with Jacoby Brissett, guys. And listen, I know Brissett's capable and he looked awesome because he wasn't Kyler Murray, but it's not like Brissett is some long time, amazing quarterback to force feed fantasy production to wide receivers. So we'll see I want to see what shakes out. I guess the only way I'm moving off of him now is if I'm packaging him with someone else to go get kind of a more veteran, proven producer for my teams that are contending. So I'm probably holding off on Wilson for now, but I'm open to fielding offers. But I'm not just going to sell him for a random second round pick, especially in this year's class.
I like it. I knew you would deliver their commish expert advice there. How about we move on to George Pickens at number 6 here?
Yeah, George Pickens. This is a guy that I've been really down on throughout the duration of his career, if I'm being honest. And he surprised me this year. He had a massive season. Finished as a top 5 wide receiver, which is good to see. He had another big ADP jump as well, as you might imagine. He was 54 overall coming into the season and finished currently at ADP 20 at the moment. So this is another Cowboys player I'm talking about here who's a pending free agent. So we'll see where he ends up. I think Dallas should make him a priority. That said, I will see how big the contract gets. They're already paying Dak a lot of money. They're already paying CeeDee Lamb a lot of money. Jake Ferguson's also wanted an extension. And as I mentioned, they're trying to sign Javonte Williams too. So they need help on other parts of their roster, which actually kind of helped fuel Pickens' big breakout season. I mean, they had the number 6 scoring offense, so he was a part of a high octane offense. They also had the worst defense in the league in terms of points per game allowed, which always makes for a perfect storm in fantasy when you have a competent offense with a bad defense that forces that offense to play catch up. So that's what we love to target. And that's kind of what helped Pickens succeed this year. So there were definitely enough footballs to go around. I don't think that the Dallas flipping around its defense is a 1-year kind of overhaul. I do think that it's going to take a couple of years to really get this defense back humming and firing on full cylinders. So even if they do kind of make a little bit of a step and get back to a little bit closer to an average defense, I think that passing the ball is always going to be a focal point of this offense. We saw that under Coach Brian Schottenheimer when he was a coordinator, and we saw it again in his first year as head coach. So if they re-sign Pickens, I'm going to continue to like him. If he goes elsewhere, we'll see where that ends up. But I think no matter where he goes, he's probably going to be the number 1, or at least in the mix for the number 1 receiver option if he stays in Dallas. Probably will be the number 1 if he goes elsewhere. So we'll see where it plans out, how it pans out. But he was definitely a big riser in 2025.
Yeah, I'm with you, Kamish. I need to apologize to George Pickens. He proved me wrong. I was not very high on Pickens at all throughout his career, but he was awesome this year for Dallas. So he earned himself a lot of money. And for everybody that had George Pickens, they're ecstatic. I mean, wide receiver 5 on the year. Just a great season for him. So definitely a massive riser. And if you don't have any comments, Aaron, I'll go to Chris Olave.
Go right ahead, sir.
Okay, so Chris Olave, a guy that has always had the talent. The biggest, obviously, concern with him is the head injuries. And it was awesome to see him get through the year without any concussions. And boy, did he have a heck of a season. I mean, just a great turnaround for him. He's a guy that was on one of my dynasty teams that was I didn't really leave him for dead, but I mean his value just absolutely tanked with the obviously concussion history. Nobody really wanted to invest anything substantial into him, so I just kept him on my roster, and thankfully I did because he helped me win a championship in that league this year, being wide receiver 6 in half and full PPR, and he missed week 18. So 100 catches for 1,163 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 153 targets from a guy in Tyler Shuck, who really showed something as a rookie. I think obviously he's going to get a chance to be the starter next year, and I'm actually excited to see what he can turn into. I mean, the Saints might have found a hidden gem in him because he was very good, and Olave was really good with Shuck. So it was just a great year for Chris Olave. I mean, in the fantasy playoffs, like I said, just helping people win championships. Wide receiver 10, 2 and 2 in the last 3 weeks of your fantasy season up to the championship. So it's always going to help a player's value when they just go nuclear in the fantasy championships, because any player that helps win somebody money is gonna, his stock's gonna go way up. So Chris Olave is a major riser in my books, just for the simple fact that he showed that elite level ability again, and he was able to stay healthy.
Commish, any thoughts on Olave?
I think Ethan covered it pretty well. I mean, he was someone his value was a lot lower a year ago than it is right now. He definitely balled out. I mean, if anything, I'll just use this as an opportunity to talk up Tyler Shuck a little bit. I mean, He was a guy that, if we had allowed rookies into this exercise, we're only talking veterans tonight, he would have been probably brought up as a quarterback, because even in Superflex draft, he was a guy who was going in the late second, in some cases even the third round, which is great. For a guy who was going to get chances to start the season at some point. So that's, he surprised a lot of people too. And it's developing into a nice tandem between those two pretty quickly, which is good to see. So I think at least you have someone that can at least fuel fantasy production at the quarterback spot in New Orleans, which makes a big deal. It makes it a lot easier to live with some of those injury risks that Olave does still carry. It's not like he gets through 1 year and all these head injuries, all these concerns go away. Those are still very real, but at least you can ride the production wave while he is on the field. So, definitely a big riser, even just because for the simple facts that he stayed healthy and he has someone throwing him the ball now.
Yeah, I just love how much fight the Saints showed this year. I mean, you didn't think they'd really be putting together competitive football games, and they really did. So, I mean, they put up points when they need to, and Olave did as well. I think the bit, was key when they traded away Shaheed. Olave just turned into getting, 12 to 15 targets a game easily, at that point. I guess the only question there is to see, do they go at that position in the draft? Does he have a little bit of competition in targets in 2026? But, for everything else you said, I think a lot of bright spots, yet to come for for Olave in the throwing game next year. I'll take on this next guy. I went Jalen Coker here, a little bit lower profile guy, but I want to say he definitely rose the ranks as just a guy where, you probably just got him off the waiver wire last year and he put it together a couple weeks and he, kind of got you by. But, he was hurt half the season, but when he came back, he was a pretty reliable target for Bryce Young. I think, specifically in the, the wild card game, he had 12 targets for 9 receptions, 134 yards, and a touchdown. I think when you end the season on such a high note, it does give, GMs and coaches a little bit more they're a little bit more comfortable with players like that. I think the thing that impressed me with Coker is Bryce Young looked at Coker when he was in trouble many times, right? So he ended up being kind of a safety blanket where if Tat wasn't open, a lot of times he's thrown at Coker, right? So they have a really good connection. Super cheap. He's also could be a sell high too. He could just be a guy where if you picked him up on the waiver wire, you can trade him, right? Maybe take a little bit of that hype how he ended the season and get a little bit more if you're a little bit scared of his future too. But he really impressed me the last 4 weeks of the season. So I went Jalen Coker there. Thoughts on Coker?
The only thought I have is have you been talking to my father?
What's that?
said have you been talking to my father?
Ethan's dad might be the biggest cokehead I've ever seen. And I say that with all the love and respect in my heart I have for the man.
I wish Eric could have heard that question, but no, my dad just he's always talking about Jalen Coker. Commission can vouch for that.
Yeah, I get texts from Ethan's dad about Jalen Coker at ungodly hours of the night. But I guess I'll close the loop on Coker because we'll move on and kind of buzz.
Please do. Please move on from Coker, please.
Yeah, he had a strong finish to the season. He's not going to usurp Ted McMillan to be the team's number one anytime soon, which is okay. I'm a little concerned of what the team's going to do this offseason because they have a massive hole at tight end, which I think could really hurt Jalen Coker potentially. And they also have they could go ahead and draft another receiver. They could sign one in free agency. There's a lot of uncertainty at the moment, which could present a buy low opportunity if he gets through all that unscathed. We'll see. I just worry he might not be a guy who ever gives us sustainable fantasy production, especially where Bryce Young, who, yes, he took a step this season, but it's not like he was out there throwing for 40 touchdowns. I just don't know how big the pie there's going to be in terms of scoring. So we'll see. It's very much a wait and see proposition for me when it comes to Coker. So that's where I'm at on him. Looks like Aaron's having some technical difficulties, so I'll just keep going. I'm up next year with Tucker Kraft. And what I like about Kraft this season was, everything he did on the field when he was on the field. Another guy took a big jump. He went from 90 in ADP up to 54. And he was on an absolute heater to start the year. The first 2 months of the season, he finished tight end 1 overall between weeks 1 through 8, before the season-ending ACL tear in week 9 ended his season early, which stunk. But he showed enough for me for the Dynasty community to remain really bullish on him, making him a top 60 player in 1 QB ADP. I have him TE3 overall. I actually have him just ahead of Colston Level and Tyler Warren at the moment. Those 3 guys are in the same tier. We'll see what happens in the offseason. Things could change there, but for now, I have him right there. I think just where he got hurt at a top point on the calendar, where he'll likely be ready to go for week 1 of next year. And I think he's going to resume his role in that offense where he was the most consistent piece of the Green Bay Packers offense. I think he complements Christian Watson on the outside really well. And I think that they can kind of feed off each other. So big fan of Tucker Kraft. He really opened my eyes in this season. And I hope he can get back to full health soon and keep producing for us.
Yeah, no, I like Tucker Kraft a lot. I was really high on him coming into the season, and he did not disappoint. As you said, just very disappointing that he did end up getting hurt. He was my locked-in tight end 3 when he was healthy. Now that he was hurt, tough part of the season, coming back from ACL in 2026, and with the way Loveland finished the season, I probably would place Loveland as tight end 3 right now, potentially over Tucker Kraft. But Tucker Kraft's a guy who came on and broke out, and he just had a hell of a season. So very unfortunate that he got hurt, but I mean, for everybody that was hoping for that breakout for him, it was pretty nice to have a top 5 tight end in your roster while he was healthy.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you have him in Dynasty, you feel great about it. If you draft him in redraft, you thought you had a league winner at tight end, and you did for the first 2 months of the year before he got hurt. So I would go back to the well with him. If you can get any sort of discount on him coming off the injury, I would try to do it, especially in those tight end premium leagues. But I think the secret's out of the bag by now. But speaking of secrets here, Aaron was going to bring up Parker Washington. He's having some problems right now, but we'll keep going here. In terms, yeah, we're going to do it live. We'll keep doing it. Parker Washington kind of falls into that Michael Wilson camp for me, where a guy who was kind of clogging a spot on your roster, and you're like, what do I do with this guy? Do I cut bait? Do I keep him? And then all of a sudden, and you can't make this stuff up in fantasy, we think Brian Thomas Jr. is the next greatest thing since sliced bread. And then fast forward to the end of the season, and it's like, oh, yeah, by the way, they traded for Jacoby Myers, and they made Parker Washington a focal point of the offense, too. So hopefully they didn't have too much Brian Thomas Jr. or Travis Hunter in 2025 because those guys weren't it this year. So kind of a crazy situation all around here. Aaron, if you're back with us, do you want to go ahead and talk about your guy Washington a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I didn't get to catch, how much hatred you showed towards the Coker, but Parker is another under the not at all. Huh? Okay, great pick there. Well, with Parker, just another guy that came out of the woodwork. He's always been the guy for the Jaguars the last 2 years, where he's only 23 years old, but he really was more of a fill-in, right? With injuries, he kind of filled in as he kind of needed to step up, and he always proved himself every time he stepped up. With Hunter going down this year, and he kind of became more prominent, and BTJ battling injuries, they're like, hey, let's give this Parker Washington guy a shot. So he became their top option. He does play more in the slot, but that could be just how the offense works. That's maybe why they target a guy like Jacoby Myers too. Maybe unknowingly, they probably didn't anticipate how well Parker Washington was gonna perform, right? But I think what it does to the Jaguars in 2026, it might take a little relief off of Travis Hunter saying, hey, is this guy a wide receiver? You might actually see him more on defense and less running routes in 2026. So I think, I think that's not a bad thing there in Jacksonville. Any thoughts? Any other comments on Mr. Washington?
Yeah, that's kind of where I wanted to lead the conversation with the Jacksonville Jaguars receiving core is Travis Hunter. I mean, what are you doing with Travis Hunter now that, it's getting crowded with BTJ, Jacoby Myers, Parker Washington coming onto the scene and being the focal point of the offense in the biggest game of the year in that wild card round against the Bills. And now you have a guy in Travis Hunter you took obviously very early in the NFL draft who does play defensive back, and you have a crowded receiving core and obviously a very capable one in BTJ, Parker Washington, and Jacoby Myers. So it just makes this whole situation very convoluted and difficult to project. Parker Washington's a guy that he's a riser for the simple fact that he's not a dead asset in your team anymore, but you're never going to get anything in a trade for him because I don't think anybody's going to really believe in him until he does it again next year. So he's definitely probably a hold for me, maybe a little sweetener to a deal. But I think the bigger conversation is what do we do with Travis Hunter going into 2026? So it'll be interesting.
What are you doing with Travis Hunter if you have him heading into 2026?
Panicking. No, holding on. I mean, there's nothing unless somebody's going to give you, I don't know. At this point, I would just hold because, with this draft class in 2026, obviously we'll get into that as the weeks roll on here. I think I would rather just hold on to Travis Hunter than because nobody's going to give you an early first. So I'd rather at that point just rather hold Travis Hunter and wait for his stock to rebound. So he's a hold for me.
I'd probably be trading him just because I'm a Parker Washington fan. But but yeah, as you said, his stock's not very high right now. So yeah, it could be another hold candidate. Before we go to followers, let me pose a quick spitfire for you guys. On this list, if you had to pick one, who's your top sell high right now? I guess while you think about it, I'll go first. I'll say Christian Watson. Although, we talked about how great he, came back. He is in that 27 age range. Before too long, he's going to be turning 28. But just, he's still got a couple years, but, you can maybe ride his hype a little bit. As we know, the Packers like to spread the ball around. So mine is Christian Watson. Commissioner Ethan, do you have a top sell high on this list?
George Pickens by a mile. Yeah, I just think I look at Pickens and I just think we have a 4-year sample size in what he is, and he was amazing in stretches in 2025, no doubt about it. Someone's going to give him a big contract eventually. I think he still has that thing in him where he'll shut down on you, and we saw it in stretches this season.
We did,
and he plays in a crowded receiving room. I know that was a factor this year, even though Lamb missed a couple of games in the early going. I think if I can sell him for close to top 12 value in a 1 QB league, I'm willing to do that and just kind of get the assets back, maybe down tier at the position, get something else. Because I think I look at his season and say it was a perfect storm where they had the dead last ranked defense and they had Dak, who was chucking the ball over the yard, which is great. But I think just based on his entire body of work, I would be willing to move off of him of this list of anybody because I don't think his value will ever be higher than it is today. And I wouldn't be shocked at all if this is the best year he ever gives us.
No, I agree with that. I think George Pickens is a good sell candidate. Just for the simple fact is, do we think he's going to be wide receiver 5 again? And if you don't believe that, I think it's a good opportunity to sell high. But just to be different, I'd probably, if I'm looking at this list in terms of like what I can get in terms of value, because I think a lot of these guys are holds at the moment, but it's probably Chris Olave. If you were in the camp where you were really nervous about his injury history, you were just given a gift for a sell window right now to get out of Olave. He just helped you win a bunch of games in 2025. He helped me win a championship. So he doesn't owe me anything right now. And he's an asset that if you can get out and get some quality picks or down tier and get some picks on top, I think now is the perfect sell opportunity to sell Chris Olave.
Right. I like it, fellas. All right. We talked risers. Let's move on to followers. Hit us up with JJ McCarthy. Who wants to talk JJ?
Wait, what was that? Who was that? You mean 9? 9? Oh God, he's kind of a joke, isn't he?
He's something.
I don't know. JJ McCarthy. I mean, he had so much hype coming this year, and I mean, and why wouldn't he? I mean, he was a first-round draft pick by Kevin O'Connell and the Vikings. Sam Darnold just led that team to 14 wins the year before. You have Justin Jefferson, you have T.J. Hawkinson, you have Addison, you have Aaron Jones, you have Mason. I mean, it's wheels up for 9 here, and talk about a total letdown. I mean, the whole organization just fell apart with 9 at quarterback. And I mean, I know I mentioned this before, but to me, it kind of started all the way back in week 1 where he's begging Justin Jefferson not to lose faith in him. It's like, dude, it's week 1. Like, why are you already like, to me, that just tells me where his confidence level is as a starting quarterback in the NFL. I just don't think he has it. He just doesn't. I mean, he just seems like not ready for the moment. And I hope for his sake and the Vikings that he can turn it around. But for a guy that, I mean, was hurt every other week, well, air quotes on that hurt, he was probably more so a soft benching. But I mean, he in the startup, in one of my startups last year, he went in the 5th round, QB 13. His current DLF ranking is QB 23. And right now, just nobody trusts him. He has very little value in trades. I mean, he's a guy you're not going to really get what you paid for him. He made one of the best receivers in the league look absolutely pedestrian, and to the point where I was benching him in my fantasy football lineups through the down the stretch. So what a fall from where we were looking at JJ McCarthy last year in August and September.
Yeah, hate to have the best wide receiver in the league and have to bench him, due to that bad play. So wasn't very pretty this year for JJ. Kamish, we can kind of speed up the tempo a little bit. How about you hit us with the tandem with the Kyler Murray to MHJ connection there?
Yeah, I'll let Ethan talk the MHJ, but in terms of Kyler Murray, there's drop-offs, and then there's dropping a rock into the ocean and letting it just sink to the bottom. And this is what that was, guys. Just in September, he was going ADP 88, and today it's 207. which is insane. It's incredible. I mean, you want to tell me he was 207? I might be actually talking myself into buying low in Superflex leagues. Not that he's 207 in Superflex. This is one QB, but still, if that's where he's going to go, I might just take some shots on him. But I didn't think it was going to be that big of a drop, but it is. And I think in an ideal world overall, it's for both sides. I know Kyler Murray was the number 1 overall pick there back in 2019, but I think it would probably be better for both sides if they can find a way to separate from one another. This is kind of the time to do it from an organizational standpoint where they're looking for a new coaching staff. It's kind of a good reset time. The problem is the guy's contract is so prohibitive. He carries a cap hit this year of $53 million and a dead cap hit of $54 million, meaning they can't cut him. And if they trade him, it could cause some problems, but they could probably work out a way to do that. We'll see what the front office and the new coaching staff decides to do, but I'm hoping there's a new start coming. If you have Kyler Murray, that's kind of your hope that he goes somewhere else, even if it's on a 1-year basis. You're like, okay, at least he gets a new situation to try to figure it out. I think that there are enough quarterback needy teams in the NFL where he's going to get another shot. Being a former number 1 overall pick, being a guy who has produced in the past, at least to some level. So I bet he gets another shot. I don't know how good of a landing spot that's going to be if he does get moved from Arizona. And I just have this image in my head of him being the 2025 version of Justin Fields and end up with the Jets. And I just think he's like the perfect Jets quarterback. Is he not? Just doesn't take it super serious, underwhelming based on his draft capital. He just reeks of Jets' latest unsuccessful reclamation project, does he not?
It's funny you say that because that was one of the landing spots I was going to bring up when it came to Kyler Murray. It's just, like you said, a fall from grace for him. He just can't play on schedule. He immediately wants to get outside the pocket. It's because he's too short. He can't see over the line of scrimmage. It's tough for him and his receivers to get on the same page. Yeah, exactly. Same page because, like I said, he's never on schedule. So Kyler Murray, the thing with Kyler Murray is he's going to get a shot. He has that rushing Konami code upside, and he's going to get, like I said, a shot this year to be a starter. Even if it's for the Jets, he's going to give you serviceable weeks, but he's definitely a guy that doesn't have right now any long-term standing value. With that being said, I'm going to go to his current teammate, Marvin Harrison Jr., and I kind of brought up some concerns when I talked about Michael Wilson. Marvin Harrison Jr. was brought in to be the wide receiver 1, and Michael Wilson was everything Marvin Harrison Jr. wasn't. It's just very unfortunate. He was in and out of the lineup with injuries. He only played 12 games, 41 receptions, 4 touchdowns, only 2 top 12 finishes all year. And he had 5 games ranking at wide receiver 48 or worse. So just a guy you could barely even trust in your lineup. And it's going to be a coaching change. He's a guy that I still believe in, but man, he is not the guy that we drafted in our rookie drafts or our startup drafts the last couple of years. He was a 3rd round pick in my startup last year, wide receiver 11, and he has not lived up to even that. So I know, Aaron, I know you took him very early a couple of years ago in round 1. So I'm sure you have something to say here.
Yeah, obviously I'm still holding on to him where I have him. Kind of have to. I think he's another one where he's good talent, but it's almost let's see what the Cardinals come up with the new coaching changes, new scheme. You see it year after year with some of these teams where Daniel Jones comes back to life or Sam Darnold, and it just takes either a quarterback change or offensive coordinator change. You see with the Bears with Caleb Williams too, right? So yeah, I still have hope for MHJ. It didn't look pretty. He showed his flashes, right? But I think it could have actually came back to Kyler Murray's play a little bit too. It just wasn't. It was obviously just not clicking in that offense. So curious to see what they do over there in Arizona. But I still have a little bit of hopes for MHJ. I'll talk this next guy being a fellow Chiefs player with Isaiah Pacheco. I think he was one where he had a lot of hype. Commission might have his ADP rankings preseason. I know they probably dropped preseason for sure. as a lot of fantasy players were very hopeful for the Chiefs offense, right? You thought Mahomes and that Chiefs offense was really going to get rolling, and they never really did. And Kareem Hunt took his job, right? So, yeah, definitely. Definitely not a buy low guy in my opinion either. I think Pacheco, he's voiced, he'll take a team friendly deal, and I think he really has to, because he knows he hasn't really, if he hits the market, there might not be that many teams that will want him either. So I'm not very high on Pacheco. He was a great story his first, his rookie year being a seventh rounder, but I think that might be the biggest flash, looking at him as a fantasy player. So that's what I got as my Debbie Downer on my fellow Chief, but just calling it how I see it there. Commish, any thoughts on Pacheco there?
My thoughts are he falls into a tier of player where it's danger time all the time, especially as they get into their last year of their contract, because his value was entirely derived from the fact that he was kind of the hammer in the Chiefs offense. And now that he's walking into free agency, and if he's openly saying I'll take a team friendly deal to stay, it means he's probably not getting much hype on the market. Now, that said, I think he is going to find another landing spot next year. He's going to be in the league in 2026. I think he's probably better off from his standpoint taking every dime he can get to go somewhere else, because he was a 7th round pick. He was the 251st pick in the draft. The guy hasn't made much money yet. So from his standpoint, I hope he does splash on somewhere and he gets to stick around the league a little bit. But when I look at this Kansas City Chiefs running game the last 2 years, I mean, it's a mess. Last year, they were 20th in yards per carry. They were ranked really low in terms of rushing yards. For a long stretch of the season, Mahomes was their leading rusher. That's the franchise run around out there. You can't have that. And if you want to go back another year, they were 31st in the league in yards per carry in 2024 when he played more games than he did last season prior to getting hurt. Or I should say they were probably pretty comparable games played. He was hurt in 24, I believe, too. But however you want to slice it, man, I would just, if I'm the Chiefs, I'm ready to get some new blood in this backfield, kind of reinvent themselves on offense a little bit. They've started to do it with the wide receivers, but they need to start doing it in the backfield as well to kind of get that second chapter of Mahomes' career, what Kansas City is going to look like. They got to start reshaping that. I think this is a good offseason to do that. I think Breece Hall is a guy who's been mocked there, which would be great for fantasy. But no matter how you slice it, I think Pacheco is a big faller. And if you have him right now, you're just hoping that he lands with another team where he can kind of hopefully mix it in a committee somewhere, and maybe you fall in the end zone for you once in a while.
Yeah, I mean, Pacheco is pretty much a dead asset in my book. He got passed up by Kareem Hunt and was just basically relegated to irrelevance for the Kansas City Chiefs. So hopefully he can land somewhere or make some money for his sake. But yeah, Isaiah Pacheco is a good story, but that story looks like it's going to end poorly, unfortunately for him. That brings me to Brian Thomas Jr. I mean, this is pretty straightforward. He was wide receiver 4 in 2024, wide receiver 43 this year, 10 touchdowns in 24, 2 touchdowns this year. I mean, Jacoby Myers, Parker Washington, Travis Hunter, a lot of competition, and him and Trevor Lawrence just never got on the same page. I still believe in the talent that is BTJ. I mean, you don't just come in the league as a rookie and do what he did and then just fall off the face of the earth. So I think he's a massive buy low. But yeah, just arguably one of the biggest busts in fantasy football for the 2025 season.
Agreed. I think BTJ, I mean, you gotta almost just take, if it's not broke, don't fix it type of approach, where, I mean, the Jaguars probably, are gonna keep the foundation that kind of got them to where they went, right? So BTJ, he's obviously still gonna be, one of the top options, but I think in Cohen's offense, he wants T-Law to spread it around, right? So he's not really an alpha, but I mean, he's a guy to, still can put up a touchdown, as a red zone threat here and there as well. But a top 12 finish might be tough, as we mentioned, with all the targets going around in Jacksonville. Commish, any thoughts there? You want to talk to your favorite guy with Keon Coleman?
My favorite guy, Keon Coleman. I'll put the kind of the last cherry on BTJ too. Like, yeah, I'm with Ethan on this. I'm not giving up on him either. I believe in the player. I think he showed enough as a rookie that he can play in the NFL, and there are better days ahead for him. He was banged up for part of the season. He very well just might be a player that when he's not 100%, just can't go out there and produce the way he's accustomed to as well. I think that's kind of been an under-discussed part of his 2025 season. But, yeah, definitely a faller for sure. Like, he definitely belongs on this list firmly. But if I can buy low on him, I'll probably still try to do that. Now, get into Keon Coleman. He was in the news today, too, for nothing he did. It was for what the Bills owner, Terry Pagula, came up out here at a press conference. It's him and Brandon Beane, who's the general manager, Brandon Beane, if you're not aware of the situation, folks, they moved on from their coach, Sean McDermott, after 9 seasons in Buffalo. I didn't mind that call. I mean, McDermott had his chances to break through with Josh Allen and some really good Bills teams and didn't do it. So I thought they were justified in moving on from him. But what happened today was ridiculous and Mickey Mouse in small time, just classic Buffalo Bills. They're at a press conference and a reporter's asking a question. And they essentially get to Keon Coleman, and the owner cuts the guy off and says, "I just want to go out of my way and say that that was Brandon being the GM, kind of being a team player, and he didn't want to draft Keon Coleman. Just he doesn't say anything about it, but I want to get that on the record. It's like, dude, first of all, Keon Coleman is still on your football team.
Exactly. What are you doing?
Guy, well, today you're going to turn around. So what are you going to do? The next coach is going to go to Keon and be, oh yeah, we really believe in you, Keon. Like Hopefully your 2026 goes better. We're going to work with you and get there. Like, no, like the guy embarrassed himself right there. Like the easy answer there is Keon's got a lot of potential. That's why we drafted him so high. We're going to work to get more out of him going forward. Done. Easy. Like press conference 101. But no, he went out there. He made the GM look terrible when the guy didn't even say a word. So that's where we're at with Keon Coleman right now. It tells you everything that the team fears about him. It kind of backs up a lot of what we thought about him on this show a couple of years ago. Like there's the tape on that. The receipts are out there, as the kids would say, on Keon Coleman. Like, well, the guy didn't get separation in college. He doesn't really get it in the pros. And I kind of thought maybe like if he's a jump ball specialist at the next level, like maybe he can do that with Josh Allen, but he hasn't really been doing that consistently. And the funny thing is he hit the end zone in their playoff game last week too, finally out of nowhere. I know. And now less than a week later they're bashing him. So it's a crazy situation. I've never been a big Keon guy in Dynasty, but I felt bad for him today with the news. So he belongs on a fallers list, but I am feeling for him a little bit.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I couldn't believe the owner went out of his way. I mean, I get what he was trying to say. He was essentially trying to defend the GM there by basically putting the Coleman pick on the coaching staff. But just as you said, Kamish, like Keon Coleman's still on the team. He's in his it's like this is his second year. It's like, I mean, he still has more time on his contract. So yeah, that was not a good look for the Buffalo Bills. I mean, the Bills have had a tough week. But Keon Coleman, I mean, you can almost put the entire Bills receiving core on this faller list with Shakir and whatnot. They need to really revamp that offense. But Keon Coleman, I mean, if the Bills don't believe in him, I mean, why should we? He started off the season with a bang, being a top 5 wide receiver, and then it was all downhill from there. So poor Keon Coleman.
Agreed. We'll see if he still has a roster spot next year.
Doesn't look like it.
Hey,
I mean,
yeah. He I mean, maybe more motivation for his haters, as they say, right? But yeah, let's end it here on Xavier Worthy. Kind of came up short in 26 season. Is it Ethan? You wanted to talk Xavier first?
Yeah, I can talk a little Xavier Worthy here. Yeah, talk about disappointing. I mean, it just right off the rip, it didn't start good for Xavier Worthy, getting depleted by his teammate Travis Kelce. And I feel like ever since that week 1 game, he just never was able to get into the offense. I mean, this is a guy that we all had high hopes for. He was going pretty early in Dynasty startups. His ADP was up there. I mean, this is Tyreek Hill a replacement, deep threats, and it just never amounted to anything. I mean, he was never garnishing a ton of targets. And I mean, I don't think, like, after the first couple of weeks, I mean, you kind of saw the writing on the wall. You could not start Xavier Worthy in your lineups at all. He was stapled to your bench. I mean, you couldn't trust him. It was all basically Rashee Rice. And just a very, very disappointing sophomore campaign for Xavier Worthy. He's definitely a guy that lost a ton of value.
Yeah, he lost some value for sure. You're right. He was brought in to kind of refill the Tyreek Hill role that was vacated after that trade from a few years back. But where he was supposed to take over that role on the field, it looks like Rashee Rice has taken over the Tyreek Hill role off the field, where he's in trouble with the law again it's how hard is it for you to just stay out of trouble for one offseason, Rashee Rice? Like, my God. Just frustrating. Like, if you have Rashee Rice in Dynasty, the offseason is the scariest time to have, because you never know with that guy when he's got free time, what he's going to do, what's going to come out about him. And we'll see how his current situation plays out. Obviously, there's a lot of moving parts to that, but it's becoming a pattern with this guy. There were some maturity issues coming out of school. He had the racing down the highway incident that got put to bed with a long suspension last year. And now he's dealing with the domestic violence allegations. So scary times to have Rashee Rice, but in the long run, it could be a benefit to Xavier Worthy. He's kind of like, with Rice's off the field problems and Kelsey probably retiring, he's probably the safest Chief on the roster as of this recording today on January 21st. So I think he is actually shaping up to be a good buy low. He was my call here to put him on a followers list, but we're just talking 2025. So I think this year could be a blip on the radar for Worthy. And if there's a little bit of a dip to buy on him, I wouldn't mind doing it here, even if it takes him and Mahomes a little bit of time as Mahomes comes back early in the 2026 season. I would be interested in Worthy. He's young enough where he should be good and part of this team for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I agree with that there. I think it could be another time for him in 2026 with Rice being in trouble again. I mean, a couple as you guys are watching your team, make the AFC Championship. I'm watching the Chiefs news. So, fortunately, we did hire Eric Bieniemy back as the OC. So, if you look historically when Bieniemy was the offensive coordinator, Chiefs offense, those were the years where Mahomes was putting up points, right? So I think that's a good thing for Worthy in the offense. And they hired a new wide receivers coach with Chad O'Shea. So, a couple, more management moves that could really help Worthy here in the future.
What I'm hearing is, Ethan, that the Chiefs need a former Patriots wide receivers assistant to come back in and get their offense back on track.
Yeah, hey, we'll take him, man. We took Tooney as well. We'll take any successful Patriot, from you guys. We couldn't really put our finger on why we were losing this year, and it kind of came down to coaching at times, right? So love that. I did throw a comment that came from the chat. So from Jackie Brockert, wondering what you love about Jeremiah Love coming into 2026, where you think he will land. Commish, and I know we're early in the
Kansas City pick 9, right? Come on,
there we go.
Pick 9.
Pick 9. That would be nice.
That would be a nice landing spot for sure. I don't think he's going to go in the top 10.
No, I don't think he's.
But you can always dream, Aaron. That would probably go a long way in helping fix your running game. There's a few spots I'd like for him. We'll see. There's a lot to be determined on Love. He's definitely the number one running back prospect in this class. He's probably the one-on-one in this class in dynasty formats, regardless if you're playing in Superflex or 1 QB. The only outlier to that, if you're in massive need help at QB in Superflex, maybe you could go that direction. A couple landing spots I'd like for him. I'm combing through the draft board right now. I'd like the Minnesota Vikings stick out to me. They could use a long-term replacement at running back. They drafted pick 18. That would be a good spot for him. If things don't work out with Javonte Williams, Dallas is on the block a couple of weeks later at pick 20. That could be an interesting spot there. And then go a little bit further down. Maybe even the Bears at pick 25. They have DeAndre Swift, but as we know with DeAndre Swift, every team that's ever had DeAndre Swift has decided we can do better at running back, including Ben Johnson when he was part of the Detroit coaching staff back in 2022. They shipped him off to Philadelphia. So those are a few landing spots I would like for Jeremiah Love. But there's a lot to unfold. We'll see what happens with free agency. It is a strong free agent running back class. So once kind of some of the dominoes fall, we'll have a better idea of what the ideal landing spots look like. But as things stand right now, I think those are a few good spots. And I think we're in a range where he could reasonably get drafted.
Yeah, not much to add there. I think Kamish pretty much covered it. But no, Jeremiah Love, he's obviously one of the top prospects in this class. So all eyes will be on him come draft day, because he is, I'm sure, going to be drafted early and often, especially if he goes to Kansas City at pick 9.
For sure, yeah. I mean, just talking, just talking the draft has me going. I know we got the season to finish. I mean, good luck to your Patriots, and everything. But I am, as a fantasy manager, excited to talk off season. I know we got a calendar we were working on before the show too, so should have an exciting off season. Feel free to throw any questions from the show in the chat. We'll be glad to answer them there on YouTube, or ping us on any of our socials, and we can bring it up on an upcoming episode as well. But until next time, folks, peace.